Welcome back, Spartans. Today we will talk about 6 misconceptions about happiness. So these are things you think are gonna make you happy, but actually won't. So instead of chasing these things down, and doing everything in your power to get these things, you can actually make the smart decision to not go for these things, and go for things which are actually gonna make you happy. And these 6 things are gonna shock you because our society has been pushing us to go for these things. Our society has told us, well, if we just have these things, we will have a more fulfilling and happier life. But that's not actually the case. It's quite funny why they are pushing us to get these things. I guess just for their own benefit, I guess. So all this knowledge is from the course The Science of Well-Being. So this is basically a free course on Coursera from Yale University. And I'm not promoting them or anything, but I think it's a genuinely good course to take. The course is about mental health, basically. So let's get into it. The first thing you think is going to make you happy, but is actually not, is a good job. So you think, well, if I just get this good job, that high pay raise, then I will be happy. But that's actually not the case. It doesn't actually increase your happiness at all. And this is because of hedonic adaptation. So let me explain. So this is the process where you actually get used to the thing you have. So the first week or the second week you think, whoa, I'm so happy because I got that job. But after a while you just get used to it, It doesn't have the same boost in happiness anymore. And that's called hedonic adaptation. You get used to it, you adapt to it. And hedonic adaptation is the first thing. And the second thing is, they actually did this study. And they, interviewed people. How do you feel after you, not get that good job? So after you hear you didn't get accepted for that good job, how do you actually feel? So they did a survey and they first asked people, well, how do you predict you will feel? And people predicted that they would feel pretty awful if they didn't got the job. And they predicted that they would have a 2-point decrease in happiness, and they worked with points in happiness right here. So after they actually heard they didn't got the job, they interviewed them again. So how do you feel now? Directly after. And they found out that the decrease in happiness wasn't that great at all, only 0.68. So people actually didn't really felt that much worse, after they predicted. So their predictions were much worse. But this was, after a fair decision. So what happens after an unfair decision? So they predicted that their, decrease in happiness would be like 1.9, But their actual decrease in happiness was actually 0. That's quite funny, right? It might be because you already know, well, I'm perfectly suitable for the job. They're just stupid not to date me, right? So what are people actually looking for in a job? That's interesting. So I've got a chart here. So the main thing people are looking for in a good job is compensation. So a good pay, having the Benjamins. So that's interesting. So how much money actually is enough? So they asked people this. So people who are making around 30K a year, they asked them, well, how much money is enough? How much money do you need to be happy? So people who are earning 30K a year told them, well, if I just earn 50K, then I would be happy, then I would be satisfied. But, they did the same thing with people who are earning 100K a year. And they asked them, how much money do you need to be happy? Well, if I just earn 250K a year, then I would be happy. And you see where this is going through, right? It's never enough. People always want more. People are never satisfied because it's always the new baseline. So if you first made, 30K and then made 100K, it is hedonic adaptation. It is the new normal. You don't get like the same boost of happiness because it is normal for you to earn 100K a year. So let's go to the second thing, money. So you think money is going to make you happy, but it's actually not. And this is very interesting. They did a few, surveys about this and a few studies, a lot actually. And they actually interviewed people, back in the days in the 1960s and now, around 2005. And they asked them, well, how important is being very well off financially to you? How important is making money to you? And back in the days, 42% of people thought it was very important. But now 71% thinks it's important. So money is becoming much more important to people now than it was back in the days. So that's very interesting. And they also, thought about how do you think about, developing a meaningful philosophy in life? Well, how do you think that's important? So back in the days, almost 90% of people thought that was very important, but today only 52%. So, having a meaningful impact in life, around you is actually less important today. Today, it's all about the money, If you just make more money, then you are happy. So that's actually quite funny to see. And I actually did another study, about the correlation between, money, the correlation between income and life satisfaction. So how happy are you in your life? And they found out that there is literally no link between happiness and money. Like almost nothing, unless you live in a poor nation. And so let's look at this graph. So if you live in a wealthy nation, there's no link between, earning more money and more happiness. But if you actually live in a poorer nation where there is not sufficient, water, food, and all these basic needs, more money is actually going to increase your happiness because, let's pretend like you finally have enough money to buy food, you finally have enough money to buy sufficient drinking water or to buy a normal home. But in wealthy nations, it doesn't really matter how much money you make. So more money isn't necessarily going to make you happier. And that's understandable, right? Another very interesting thing, they did surveys with people in the 1940s and, 2015. And they asked them about their life's happiness, their overall happiness. And they found out that people in the 1940s actually scored a 7.5 out of 10 on their happiness. But today, only a 7.2. So there's a decrease in happiness. But we have more stuff, we have all these nice things because of our society, Back in the days, you didn't have dishwashers, you had to wash your clothes with the hands. Today we have laptops, all these nice things which are going to make our life better, right? Well, right? All these nice things are going to make our life better, but it actually kind of isn't. We think if we just get more money, we can buy more stuff and we will be happier, but that's not actually the case. Maybe it is the case for, poor nations, and maybe if you are poor yourself, if you are only making 10 or 20k a year, a bump in your income so you can, have these basic needs, it's gonna, bump up your happiness. So they actually found out there is a little correlation, a small correlation between life satisfaction and, happiness. And actually found out there was like a ceiling. So the ceiling of, increasing your happiness is 75k a year. So above this number, more money isn't gonna make you happy, isn't gonna boost your happiness in any way. So if you make 70k a year, you have basically maxed out your income / happiness. So let's go on. The third thing you think is gonna make you happy is having awesome stuff. If only I had this, then I would be happy. If only I had this nice house, cool car, pool, all these nice things, then I would be happy, But nice things isn't actually going to make us happy. Actually, the opposite. It is going to decrease our happiness. And let me explain. They did this study in the 1970s. And they talked about life satisfactions. And actually tested these subjects, in the 1970s and now. So basically, there was a 20-year period in between. So they asked them about their life satisfactions. And people who, tested more materialistic, so who were more focused on getting all this nice stuff, were actually tested, with lower life satisfactions after 20 years. So they were actually less happier. And they also had more mental health disorders. So, get rid of this materialistic attitude of, I have to get this nice car, I have to get this nice house, I have to get all these nice things, because it is not going to make you any happier. The contrary. So the fourth one is true love. people always think, well, if I just meet that girl, then my life is complete. So they did this study over 2,500 people, and around 1,700 of them got married. And they tested their happiness effects over a time period of 15 years. And they tested, are they actually happier? Are people who are married actually happier than people who are not married? This is a very interesting question, right? So they tested that, just after they got married, they actually were happier. So this was basically the honeymoon effect, because they thought, well, we are finally married, So the first 2 years after marriage, they were actually happier, and they called this the honeymoon effect. But after that, you might have guessed it, hedonic adaptation. You get used to it, and their happiness actually went down to baseline, and there was actually no difference in them and the people who were single. So you might say, well, it might give you a small boost in happiness, because of the honeymoon effect, but in the long term, true love isn't gonna make you any happier in life. So number 5, having the perfect body. And this one kind of shocked me, because I think, having a good body is very important. And, according to this study, it's actually not going to increase your happiness. But, okay, it might not increase your happiness, but I still think it's very important to work on your body. Maybe not for your happiness, but maybe for your success in life. Your chances in the dating market, your ability to work on yourself, and to build your actual discipline. Because if you go to the gym every day, you can build you can build discipline, and this is very important for you. So, okay, there was a study between 2,000 obese people, and this study was around 4 years. So these obese people were on a diet program, and some lost weight in these 4 years, some did not. So the question is weight loss actually gonna make them happier? And you would think, well, yeah, of course, they finally, bettered their lives, and they, lost their weight, but this is actually not the case. And in this chart, you will see why. So basically, the black, pillars are, baseline, their baseline happiness as normal before they went on this weight loss track. The gray chart is after they went on this weight loss program. So what they found out, that people who, actually lost weight were actually more depressed than the people who, gained weight, or, where the weight stayed stable. So that's actually quite funny. But all subjects were worse after this weight loss program than before. So all of them were more depressed after joining this weight loss program. And it's actually quite interesting. So it seems like being on a weight loss program, even if you lose weight, even if you stay the same, doesn't really matter. Being on a weight loss program is gonna make you depressed anyway. So this is quite funny. And so that's being on a weight loss program. But what about plastic surgery? That's something else, right? Well, they found out, after undergoing plastic surgery, people were actually less happy. They had more mental health disorders. But, those people might have already had mental health problems, right? So they actually tested this as well. So in this chart, you actually see that people who underwent, plastic surgery already had some significant health disorders, mental health problems. They rated higher in suicide, ideation, alcohol abuse over the years, and things like this. But they actually found out, after undergoing surgery, all these things were actually much worse. So, all this alcohol abuse, suicide ideation were actually much worse. So, the 6th thing you think is going to make you happy, but is actually not, are good grades. So, good grades don't really impact your happiness. So, they asked people basically, like, how do you feel after, getting this grade, or getting a good grade, getting a bad grade? And the first thing they did is they actually let people predicted their happiness. So people predicted, well, if I get a good grade, higher than expected, I will be really, really happy. And if I get a, bad grade, lower than expected, I will be really bummed out. I will be really unhappy. So, and then they asked people, directly after getting this grade. So people who got a grade higher than expected, and people who got a grade lower than expected, there wasn't really any difference in their happiness. So this is quite funny. So a good grade or a bad grade isn't going to really impact your happiness. So you think all these things are going to make you happier, right? So having a good job, having good money, having nice things, love, a nice body, good grades. But these things are not actually going to make you any happier. This is crazy because, our society has been pushing us to chase those things, Our society has been pushing us to chase that good job, to chase the corporate ladder and to have love, to have nice things, to have a nice car, a nice house, It seems almost as if our society has been pushing us in a totally wrong direction. And that might be the reason why so many people are depressed these days, because those things aren't necessarily going to make you happy, but everybody believes those things are going to make you happier, right? So that's actually kind of crazy. So in later, videos, I will talk about things that are actually gonna make you happy. So, and you might think, well, my happiness is just a set point, I'm just as happy because of my genetics, and my family doesn't have the best genetics or anything, any black pill bullshit like this, right? And actually did a study on this as well. So if you look here, if you look in this, circled chart, you will actually see that 50% of your happiness is actually genetics. So 50% you can't really change, okay? But, then there's another 10%. And these are like, life events. And even if you have like a catastrophic life event, you think like, for example, if you, end up in a wheelchair, if you become blind, catastrophic things or, very impactful things like, winning the lottery. So like, for example, if you actually like break your leg and get paralyzed, for the rest of your life, you think, well, then my life is over, right? But that's not actually the case because, only 10% of that is going to impact your happiness. So you think, well, if I just, if something like this happens to me, then my life is over, but it's actually not. The same as with winning the lottery, right? You think, well, if I just win the lottery, then my life will be great, but it will actually not because it's only 10%. So life events don't really like impact your happiness that much, only 10%. And the other 40% of your total happiness are your own actions and your own thoughts. So these are the things which are actually going to make you happier. So for example, if you constantly think negatively about everything, you are becoming more depressed, and it's your own fucking fault. So 40% is under your control. And I think it's very important to understand this knowledge because we don't want to end up like the 90% of people. 90% of people are depressed these days. We are on a path of self-improvement and we should know, which things aren't going to make us happy and which things actually are. I think happiness is a key component of your self-improvement journey. And you should actually feel a bump in happiness while undergoing this journey. So thank you for watching. Spartans, prepare for glory.